Hannah pulled the gold 1972 Cadillac Eldorado convertible in front of Geraldine's house on Cypress Avenue, the old car letting out a groan and a shiver after she turned off the engine. The Cadillac was famous in Hill Creek, an anomaly in the Marin County world of sleek Mercedes and BMWs. It had come to Hannah along with Kiki, and she had grown to love it. It was every inch a woman's car, roomy with comfortable seats, smelling of perfume and pressed powder. I don't want my car to smell like perfume or pressed powder. Sure, it can have comfortable seats, but I don't really care about it being a woman's or a man's car. I just want a car I like. And it drove more like a yacht than a car, never moving so fast you couldn't change your mind about which turn to make. Machine and woman had bonded, the two being a lot alike, showing some wear, yet still stylish, cantankerous at times, but dependable in a pinch. Hannah got out of the car, smoothed the front of her slacks, and glanced up and down the street. The neighborhood was older, half residential and half commercial, sitting on the edge of town about a mile from Highway 101. It had been a long time since she had been there, because she and Geraldine preferred sitting together at the book stop. Hannah was surprised at how the neighborhood had improved, with many of the formerly run-down buildings smartly remodeled. It had been one of Hill Creek's less desirable neighborhoods, but in recent years the real estate values had shot upward, and Geraldine's small house was now probably very valuable. Hannah headed up the uneven brick sidewalk. In spite of the spruced-up neighborhood, the house was in the same slightly shabby state that she remembered, a sweet and tired-looking two-story cupboard with gray wood siding, the windows trimmed with peeling white shutters, the garden filled with white potato vines. Purple lavender and pink shrub roses appeared neglected. Its poor state surprised Hannah, and she made a mental note to come back with her clippers and do some trimming. She reached the front door, her foot knocking into one of the dozen plants in chipped terracotta pots scattered around the porch. They all looked like foundlings that Geraldine had rescued. How typical, Hannah thought with a smile. Geraldine was always saving things from destruction. In some ways she had even saved Hannah so many years ago. Hannah had been rebellious and unhappy when she reached high school. Friends and activities had come naturally to Kiki, and observing her sister's social ease made it that much harder for Hannah, who never seemed to fit anywhere. But Geraldine had taken an interest in her, talking with her, helping her realize that uniqueness was a source of pride and not despair, and best of all, seeding in her a love of poetry and books that stayed with her the rest of her life. Hannah knocked on the door. No one answered. She rapped twice more, her anxiety growing when she still received no response. She peered into the window, but with the blinds halfway closed she saw nothing. "Excuse me." Hannah heard a voice behind her and turned, finding a woman at the end of the walkway. She was about in her 40s, had cropped hair, and wore blue jeans and a sweatshirt. She held a cardboard box that looked too big for her to be carrying. "You want Geraldine?" "Yes. Do you know where she is?" "Yeah, I do," the woman said, her tone apprehensive. She lumbered up the sidewalk, panting from the weight of the box. Hannah met her on the steps. "Can I help you with that?" "No, I'm okay. It's good for my arm muscles. I'm starting to get that wiggly-wobbly stuff underneath." She rested the box on the railing. Hannah noticed her eyes, a clear gray rim with thick black lashes. "You're the second person who's come looking for her today. I'm Judy, your neighbor." She noticed Hannah's glance at the small office building next door. "No, I live in the house on the other side." "Listen, Geraldine got sick late last night. I saw the ambulance take her." Hannah's previous misgivings hardened into something much worse. "What happened?" "I'm not sure. I think she had trouble breathing or something. I checked a little while ago. She's in Marin Valley." "Aren't you all in Marin Valley?" "I'm assuming this is the name of the hospital, but it's not very clear. When I talk about the hospitals here, we can go like, 'Oh yeah, they went to St. Mary's,' or 'they're in UT. Those are distinctive, well-known names around here. But saying Marin Valley doesn't really tell me anything, because we already know they're in Marin County." Why not also in Marin Valley? Hannah thanked her and hurried back to the Cadillac. The engine started smoothly, sensing that Hannah had no time for moodiness. I'm sure the car cares. Marin Valley, a private hospital, wasn't far, and Hannah arrived within 10 minutes. After checking with the information desk, she rode up in the elevator, emerging on the 3rd floor into a short, wide hall. Walking briskly, she turned the corner into a longer hallway lined with patients' rooms. A nurse brushed past her, and Hannah followed her to the nurses' station at the far end of the hall. There, several nurses in blue smocks busied themselves behind the desk. A uniformed young man whizzed by, pushing a metal cart, and an older man in street clothes, his arms filled with flowers, leaned over the counter, barking at one of the nurses. It was on the other side that she spotted Gilman, wearing a white coat. She stood by the long L-shaped desk, reading the contents of a manila folder. Hannah hurried to him. "Ron, what's wrong with Gerdeline? How is she?" His eyes darting up from the papers, he looked irked at the interruption, but on seeing Hannah, his expression eased. He closed the folder. "Hannah, I'm glad you're here. Her heart was racing last night. She dialed 911. Duh, that's how you get an ambulance. The emergency room docs decided to keep her overnight for tests. I just come off the ward this morning when I found out she was here." Hannah's insides clenched. Was it a heart attack? No. But they gave her an echocardiogram and didn't like the results. Apparently she's had mitral valve prolapse for years. Speak English. Or, in simple terms, tell me what that means. A heart valve problem, and it's gotten worse. Hannah thought about the sorry condition of Gerladine's house and garden. She probably didn't have the strength to keep things up. Well, not if her heart's giving her problems. It really depends. Like, my mother had a heart condition for years, but she was still able to do things. It's just when she started getting older, she couldn't do as much stuff. And I and my brother had to do things for her. They're going to replace the valve. She's scheduled for surgery first thing tomorrow morning, so they're keeping her overnight. You could have just said they're keeping her overnight again, or she's going to be staying for a while. He shook his head philosophically. I thought her color was off yesterday. Will she be all right? Calm down, Hannah. Heart surgery is safe these days. Gary's got a fine surgeon who does this kind of operation every day. Some patients are back playing tennis in a few weeks. How long has she known about the problem with her heart valve? I never knew about it, neither did I, but I'm not her doctor. I haven't kept up with her other than our annual get-togethers, and you know how closed-mouthed she always is about anything personal. He gave Hannah's shoulder a comforting squeeze. Gerlandine will be fine. A heart valve problem like hers is serious, but it can be repaired. Now go see her. She's in 324, down the hall on the left. She's been asking for you, and pretty intensely. I think she's getting tired of Vera and Lillian fussing over her. How do they know she was here? I was on the phone with Lillian this morning just after I found out, and she called Vera. I just called your house a little while ago and left a message with Kiki. I apologize for not calling you first thing. He looked sincere. My day's been hectic. It's okay, I understand. Gilman had his superficial flaws, but Hannah knew he had always been very caring when it came to his friends. She gave him a smile, and he returned it. Only then did she notice his neatly slicked back hair, and the elegant red tie peeking out of his white jacket. Giving the air an exploratory sniff, she smelled his cologne, the subtle, rich kind that cost $50 at Nordstrom's. She could save him a lot of time and money, she thought, and tell him that, from the way Lillian made goo-goo eyes at him the day before, he could skip bathing a week and dab cow manure behind his ears, and the woman would still be entranced by him. That's assuming he's getting all dressed up for Lillian. She would have to think of a gentle way to break the news to her sister. It doesn't matter what you say to that dumbass. She's already gun-ho for him. Hannah located Gerlandine's room, pausing in the doorway to gather up her most optimistic attitude before walking in. She peeked inside and saw sun streaming through the window, casting an angle of light on the floor. Gerlandine was awake, tucked beneath a blue blanket with only her arms, head, and shoulders exposed. A metal tray stand had been pulled in front of her, and on it sat a plastic cup with a lid and a bendable straw. Why would it be metal? We just have like the rolling wooden tables. Hannah tensed at the sight. It reminded her of her own hospital stay when she had her mastectomy. In case you don't know what that means when they remove your breasts. At the foot of the bed stood a nurse, her head bent over a chart. Vera sat in a chair by the wall, her face fretful, her fingers twisting the cotton of her skirt. Lillian, dressed up in a pantsuit and pearls, sat perched on the bed's edge, a compact in her hand, applying powder to Gerduline's cheeks. "I don't want it," Gerduline said, not seeing Hannah. Lillian continued dabbing at her face with a small makeup brush. "You need blusher. You already look much better," Lillian said, with the forced exuberance she would have used with an 8-year-old. "If you don't stop trying to make me look like a 2-bit tart, I'm going to take the thing and throw it out the window," Gerduline told Lillian. The words tough, but her voice without its usual vigor. The nurse lifted her eyes from the chart and looked at Lillian with disapproval. The nurse was pretty, youngish, black hair and dark-eyed, about 35. She was moving protectively in Gerduline's direction when Hannah interrupted. "May I come in?" Hannah asked, stepping into the room. Lillian looked up. "Hannah, please do." Putting her handbag on a chair, Hannah went over and stood next to Lillian. A good look at Gerlandine's face stunned her. She didn't know if Gerlandine was really that pale, or if it was only the contrast against the heavy circles of rouge on her cheeks. If Hannah hadn't known better, she would have thought Lillian intended to make Gerlandine look ridiculous. Vera must have seen Hannah's expression, because she got up out of the chair, grabbing a tissue from the box on the nightstand. "You put on way too much, Lillian," Vera scolded, reaching between her and Hannah, and making ineffective swipes at Gerlandine's face. "I did not. She needs color," Lillian said. "She's white as a sheet." "Well, she's pink as petunias now," Vera shot back. Gerlandine grabbed the tissue. "Will both of you leave me in peace and stop talking about me in third person like I'm a corpse?" "I'm sorry, but it's time for all visitors to leave," the nurse said firmly. "I want Hannah to stay," Gerlandine said. She looked anxiously at Hannah. "I need to talk to you." She raised up on her elbows. Out of the corner of her eye, Hannah saw concern on the nurse's face, and it made her think that Gilman had understated the seriousness of Gerlandine's condition. But she noted with relief that Gerlandine wasn't hooked up to oxygen or monitoring equipment, which would be really strange. You would think if somebody with a heart condition would have at least an echogram, which she took as a good sign. "No, I would take that as a sign that that hospital is shit, and she should go somewhere else." "You must lie back, Miss Markham," the nurse said to Gerlandine, her manner gentle but firm. Gerlandine smiled. "Ruth takes flack from no one." "Please listen to her, Gary. You're very sick," Vera said, her hands pressed together like she was praying. "And Ron said that you must rest." "Yes, you should follow Ron's instructions to the letter," Lillian said. "He's an internalist, not a cardiologist, and he's not even my doctor." "Oh, internist! I thought that said internalist, and I was about to say, I'm like, the heart is internal, so I'm not really sure what they're talking about here." Gerlandine told them, giving Lillian and Vera a look that said she wished the floor would open up and swallow them both. She took hold of Hannah's wrist. "We need to talk, Hannah, alone." Lillian went rigid. Vera sank back in her chair, looking surprised. "Well, of course, if you need to be alone, we'll be glad to leave," Lillian said tartly, standing. "You realize that Vera and I drove all the way over here, and you've barely said a kind word to us. Leave her alone. If she wants to talk to Hannah, that's her business," Vera said, rising to her feet and gathering her coat and purse. "I see Ron. Come on, Lillian. Maybe he could have a coffee with us in the cafeteria." Lillian needed no more encouragement. The mention of Ron sending her fast as a bullet to the hallway, with Vera straggling behind. The nurse walked to the door. 5 minutes, okay, she said. Gerlandine nodded. Hannah pulled a chair close to the bed and sat. "Thank God they're gone. I know I was rude, But I've got 'em all on my mind," Gladys muttered. Her expression darkened. "I'm so glad you're here, Hannah. You have to help me." She pulled her body upward. "It's even more important now." "Take it easy," Hannah said, gently pressing Gladys back onto the bed. "Vera was right. You need to rest." Gladys relaxed into the pillow. "I'm not dead yet, you know. You're also not ready for a triathlon either. You're having major surgery tomorrow." Gladys shrugged. "These days it's like changing a spark plug. Odds are I'll be back at the book stop swilling espresso within the week." "What the hell is swilling?" She paused. "Still, there's always the chance something could happen. Ron said it's safe. The surgery's got a 5% mortality rate. I checked. That's why we have to talk." "I'm ready when you are. I want to know what you were talking about yesterday." Gladys twisted on her side, her hand straining for the metal nightstand. "What do you want?" Hannah asked. "Let me get it. My purse, top drawer." Hannah opened the drawer and pulled out a well-worn leather handbag that she handed to Gladys. Gladys unzipped it and pulled out a small ring of keys. "I'll tell you everything, but first I need you to go to my house," she said, pressing the keys into Hannah's hand. "There's a wooden box sitting on top of a chest at the foot of my bed. Inside it is an envelope. You can't miss it. I want it here with me, and it'll help me explain things. Could you get it and bring it back to me? And please don't show it to anyone. It's private." "Of course, but what's all this about? I'd like to hear it now." Hannah saw Gladys' brain percolating, weighing what she should tell now and what she should wait. Gladys glanced away a second, and when she looked back at Hannah, her eyes signaled that she was going to spill it all. But a knock at the door caught her attention. Gilman stepped into the room. "Gary, you've really hurt Vera's feelings, and Lillian's in a snit. I know you're under a strain, but please apologize and make both our lives easier. You know how they are." He didn't wait for a response, assuming his request would be obeyed. With a smile he turned to leave, but stopped in the doorway to chat with the nurse. "We'll have to talk later," Gladys said quietly, tipping her head toward Gilman, who was within eavesdropping distance. "They're doing tests on me today, and they said I wouldn't be done until around 4. Can you come back then?" Consumed with curiosity, Hannah didn't want to wait for Gladys' story. Her first impulse was to press her and get the whole thing right then. But she realized she shouldn't put pressure on someone with a heart condition. "Of course. Can I get you anything while I'm at your house? How about a book and a fresh nightgown? Don't fuss over me. It makes me feel like I'm 90 years old with a fractured hip." "I don't know. Suck it up, lady, because you're going to be in there for a while." "I just want the envelope. It's too risky to leave it at the house, even for a few hours." Hannah heard Vera and Lillian's voices, joining Gilman's in the hall as she stood to leave. "And remember," Gladys said, her eyes sliding briefly to the hall, "this is between us. Promise me." "I promise." Hannah assured her. She said goodbye and walked into the hall. "I'm going to be here first thing in the morning. I'd like to talk to Dr. Lee before she goes into surgery," Gilman said to Vera and Lillian as Hannah approached them, just outside Gladys' door. "And it'll make her feel better if she has friends around." "You're not telling us everything," Vera said. "You're trying to protect us. Gary's really sick. I know it. She looks so awful." "Vera, I can assure you," Gilman started, but Vera didn't let him finish. "You reach a certain age," she said with emotion, "and friends and family start dying." Hannah listened to this with sympathy, knowing that Vera's husband had died a few years earlier. "Please, Vera," Lillian said, "you're overreacting." "I don't care what you or anybody else thinks," Vera said. "I'm coming back here and spending the night." Lillian sighed. "It's not necessary. I'm spending the night," Vera said with firmness. "Not necessary or not, it's not going to hurt anything if she does. Unless, you know, she's the bad guy." "I'm spending the night," Vera said with firmness. "Gary doesn't have any family, and regardless of what she says, I know she's frightened. She'll feel better if she knows someone is here." Gilman opened his mouth to protest, but then stopped. He put his hand on Vera's shoulder, a gesture that didn't escape Lillian's notice. Because he couldn't be comforting a friend or acknowledging her or anything, you know, immediately has to be jealous. What an asshole. "I understand what you're feeling. You're a good friend." "I'm going to stay tonight, too," Lillian quickly chimed in. "Why?" and it was obvious that she said it only to Vera, so Vera wouldn't outshine her in front of Gilman. Who gives a shit? Vera cast Lillian a disparaging look, then noticed Hannah. What did Gary want to talk to you about? Vera asked in an anxious tone that matched her expression. Yes, we're dying to know what was so secret, Lillian said. A secret means that you don't tell it, Hannah replied. Lillian responded with a pinched look. It's just a simple errand, Hannah added, noticing the queasy feeling in her stomach she sometimes got when she told a lie. Look, I don't like telling a lie either, but these guys are douchebags. I don't think you should share anything with them. It was the truth in a way, but deep inside she knew there was something very odd going on with Gladys, and she was as interested as Vera and Lillian to find out what it was. Chapter 3. The Cadillac belched gray smoke as Hannah pulled away from the stop sign. With Hannah on the verge of belching smoke herself, she was so rankled by her sister's fixation on love potions. Well, what the hell prompted this? I thought you were going to pick up an envelope. It being a fine sunny day, they drove to the Gladys' house with the convertible top down. Hannah never minded if her hair got used, but Kiki was fresh from the hairdresser and had that week's coiffure, a McQueen-like helmet dyed a pinkish blonde, not found in a human gene pool, wrapped in a long narrow scarf, the ends flapping behind her like two windsocks. I'm going to say this again, Hannah said, gunning the engine and cutting over to the next lane. You've already said it 10 times, Kiki replied, her tone blithe, as she inspected her lipstick in her compact mirror. But this time I want you to watch my lips, because I don't think you're getting it. There's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as magic. Still engrossed in her reflection, Kiki made kisses in front of the small mirror, then smoothed the edges of her lipstick with the tip of her little finger. You're just grumpy because Gladys' sick, but I'll tell you, hun, she'll probably be just fine. So try not to worry. She's strong as an ox. She snapped her compact shut. I take your advice on a lot of things, but when it comes to the spirit world, you're just not in the know. Because Kiki and Naomi is, apparently. Naomi's an expert on this stuff, and she says there's magic everywhere. Naomi is a confirmed, lying sack of shit. She even said so herself, that she fakes this shit, so people will think she's real. She's not. She is as much of a psychic and spiritual medium as my cat Jason is. And they're not very. No kidding, Hannah. She says it's in the food we eat, the air we breathe, and it's in the trees and furniture, and just about everything. Naomi also once said that she was getting alien signals through her hoop earrings. Naomi also said once that she was getting alien signals through her hoop earrings. You know she was on pain medication for her sprained ankle when she said that. What? Pain medication for her sprained ankle. You know, if it was my mother saying this, when she was dying of cancer, I would be more forgiving of this, because my mother was on morphine. She didn't have a sprained ankle, she had lung cancer. When my aunt was on morphine for cancer, she thought the doorknob was melting off the bathroom door. Any medicine you get for a sprained ankle is probably more like aspirin, and you're not going to be tripping on aspirin. Unless you take a shit ton of it, and then you're probably in the emergency room getting your stomach pumped. You know she was on pain medication for her sprained ankle when she said that, and we can't be sure it didn't happen, which is bullshit because I'm pretty sure you can. Besides, you can just take a chill pill. No, you're the one who's stupid, so you can shut up, Kiki. A grin on her face, Kiki cocked a thumb at her chest, because this old girl's in motion on the potion, whether you like it or not. Ronnie will be all mine in a couple of days. He'll never know what hit him. Naomi got the email from her witch friend, and we're going to start on it as soon as she's done at Wanda's. So that's where she is. I tried to call her to confirm her for the poker game tonight. She's still on for the game, even though she's tied up almost all day. She and Wanda are talking to Zeno, Uncle Marv. As she made a right turn, Hannah jokingly waggled her finger in her ear, as if it needed unclogging. "Excuse me? Oh, Hannah, it's so thrilling, like something you read in the National Enquirer. After talking it over with Wanda, Naomi's decided that Zeno really is the reincarnation of Uncle Marv. And Naomi needs extra cash, right? Well, it turns out Uncle Marv was an investment counselor back in New Jersey. A real good one, and according to Wanda, he made tons of money in computer stocks or something like that. So she and Naomi are getting investment advice from him. Naomi says they're going to get rich." Oh my fucking god, really? Are you fucking serious? You're going to get stock advice from a dog. You know, even if you believe in something like reincarnation, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about that to my understanding. Like, how much would you remember from a past life? How much would you remember from a past life depending on what you became in the next life? Also, how much of that in the past would matter to you now, in your current life? I mean, there's a bunch of different things. Also, how would you know specifically you're talking to that person about who somehow remembers their past life, and not like some kind of another spirit or a demon, or that particular spirit is truthful enough to give you good sound advice and not just lie to you because it thinks it's funny. 'Cause shit happens, guys. Let's face it. Hannah stopped the car at a red light. Naomi's grasping at straws. She's so desperate for money, poor thing. She'd be better off just living with the termites. And exactly how are they planning to communicate with Uncle Marv? Naomi said that first they're going to scratch his stomach and hand-feed him a little pastrami so he doesn't think they're only interested in money, which is exactly what they're interested in. Then they're going to label rubber balls with different stocks and investments. Do you know how long that would take? You would basically have, like, one of those, like, balloon ball pit things. And then that would be like your little dog jumping in there, swimming around for a bit, just grabbing a hold of something and bringing it back to you. There are a lot of stock options. I mean, there are a lot of companies out there to get stocks from. And see which one Uncle Marv chooses. Hannah screwed up her face as she visualized the scene. The light changed and the Cadillac lurched forward. Kiki rubbed her hands together in anticipation. "I can't wait to get to Gladines. I still don't understand why you wanted to come with me. I'm just running an errand. I thought you had an appointment at Lady Nell's this afternoon." "I don't have an appointment exactly," Kiki said. "I was just going to hear the gossip, but I changed my mind." Hannah found this very curious. Kiki normally loved gossip at Lady Nell's, and Kiki normally loved gossip at Lady Nell's, the way a drunkard loves happy hour, and she rarely missed a chance to park herself in one of the pink vinyl chairs and catch up on the latest Hill Creek minute. Hannah hadn't told Kiki about the envelope, only that she was picking up something for Gladine, and she knew Kiki assumed it was something simple like a nightgown. What could be so fascinating? Hannah asked her. "I'll get to see her house and all her things," Kiki explained. "I love to look inside people's houses because you're a nosy son of a bitch that likes to look down on others. You learn so much about them. I've known Gladine for ages, but I haven't ever walked through her front door. There was always something a little mysterious about her. I just call her private." Kiki leaned closer to her sister. "There's scuttlebutt around town. You want to hear it?" "No." They say she got hurt by a man when she was really young and never got over it, and that the trauma left her sexually agnostic. You mean celibate. Don't correct me. I meant just what I said. What you said was stupid and made no sense. Also, her private business is not your business. So what if she is? It's none of our business, and it doesn't change the way we feel about her. Of course, but still, it's interesting. Makes me want to take a peek in her lingerie drawer. You are a creepy pervert. You are a creepy, sad existence, Kiki. What the fuck is wrong with you? You think she's going to have no trespassing stamped on her panties? Go ahead and joke, but you can tell a lot about a woman by looking at her underwear. I don't think so, but okay, haven't looked at a lot of women's underwear. A few blocks before reaching the freeway, Hannah turned left on Cypress Avenue, drove another 2 blocks, and parked at the curb in front of Gurladines. After making their way up the sidewalk, Hannah pulled Gurladine's keys out of her purse, inserted the brass key in the lock, and opened the door. They stepped into a darkened living room filled with fraying but comfortable furniture and aged oriental rugs on the wooden plank floor. A large bookcase covered the entirety of one wall, its shelves filled with old hardbacks. Man, I want to visit this woman's house. I want to read her books. Hannah knew that Gurladine scavenged for them at garage sales the way she herself scavenged for old dishes. Right. They had even gone garage sale shopping together a few times. Going to the window, Kiki opened the shade, light spilling into the room. She turned just as Hannah closed the door. That's strange. What? Kiki pointed to the door. She has 3 bolts plus the chain. Hannah looked at the heavy brass bolts, 2 of them gleaming with shiny newness. They had been recently installed. There hadn't been any rash of crime. Right. 'Cause you couldn't say there hadn't been any boom in crime. Apparently crime has a rash in Hill Creek. So why would Gurladine suddenly be so concerned about a break-in? Hannah remembered what she had said about being in some trouble, the idea sending a shiver up her back. Yet it seemed unlikely that anyone would want to hurt Gurladine. I'm going to get the things she asked for. You wait here, Hannah said. She went into the bathroom. Pale yellow wallpaper covered the walls, and a scarred antique dresser sat opposite the bed, its top scattered with personal things. Watch, hairbrush, a rumpled nightgown. Against the adjacent wall stood a desk covered with papers. The bed was unmade, and a depression in the pillow gave her the feeling that some invisible person was laying there. Well, of course the bed is unmade. She left in an ambulance. A small table by the bed held a glass half full of water, a squeezed bottle of hand lotion, and a paperback novel. Hannah ran her hand over the white bedspread and touched the ruffled pillows. The room was frilly, so unlike Gurladine. Maybe Kiki was right, Hannah mused. About what? And intimate possessions revealed the true woman. Not really. It made her curious about the contents of Gurladine's lingerie drawer. Why? Kiki, as an asshole, planted that garbage in your head, and so now you can't help but think that. Hannah heard a small crash from the living room. Kiki, are you snooping? Just bumped into something. Kiki called out. Hannah knew she was fibbing. She took the nightgown from the top of the dresser to make Kiki think it was what she had come for. It was then she noticed the large, battered wooden chest sitting at the foot of the bed, and a much smaller walnut box sitting on its top. She opened the lid of the small box and found a white envelope, just as Gurladine had described. It rested on a pile of curled old black and white photographs. Without examining the box's contents, she slipped the envelope in her purse and started to close the lid, but the photograph on top of the pile caught her attention. She felt a powerful urge to take a closer look at it, but decided she shouldn't. She was there only to pick up something for a sick friend, not to rummage through the friend's things. She paused, curiosity getting the best of her. Her hand inched towards the photo. Is the little girl's room in here? Kiki asked from the doorway. Hannah's hand jerked back. She knew that Kiki just wanted to check out Geraldine's bathroom, yet she could hardly criticize her sister for stooping when she was about to commit the same crime herself. She glanced guiltily in her sister's direction. I see it, Kiki said cheerfully, pasting past Hannah into the bathroom and closing the door. The briefest little peek at the photographs wouldn't hurt, Hannah told herself. She picked up the yellowed photo and was astounded by what she saw. Geraldine stared back at her, but not the Geraldine she knew. This was the deluxe model, fully loaded, and with all the options. Really? You were going to compare her to a machine? She looked a lot younger, 20 to 30 years minimum, and her eyes were heavily made up, her lips rouged. She wore a low-cut dress that showed off her breasts, dangling earrings, and a strand of pearls around her neck. She leaned back sensuously against a tree, her head tipped slightly forward, eyes aimed seductively at the camera. Hannah jumped when she heard the sound of Kiki pawing through Geraldine's medicine cabinet, most likely looking for jars labeled sexual abstinence cream. Now that the crime of stooping had begun, Hannah resumed with fervor, eagerly looking through more photos. She found several with rich saws in the background, and strange writing on the shop signs that told her they had been taken in Asia. Strange writing, not like I know what characters are or anything. Geraldine posed with the same man in several of them, a dapper-looking guy in a sport coat and slacks. Geraldine usually draped against him. In another photo, the camera caught them sitting at a table holding sparkling martinis, looking giddy and in love. The kind of love that blossoms from a person's third cocktail. Her man was a handsome one, with an even nose and strong chin, and lust in his eyes, Hannah thought, feeling a tingle of pleasure. Hannah's just as creepy as Kiki, apparently. It looked like Geraldine wasn't quite the dull spinster everyone had thought. Something hit the bathroom floor. I can hear you, Hannah said loudly, fully aware of her hypocrisy. Still, a person's medicine cabinet was different. Not really. It's very tacky. The door opened. I think she's got stomach problems. There's lots of antacids, Kiki said, then remembered herself. I was just looking for an aspirin. I think I'm getting a headache. Since you're intent upon prying, I have proof that Geraldine isn't sexually agnostic, as you call it. Kiki hurried over to her sister. You've been through her underwear? Fuck no, I'm not touching nobody's underwear but mine. It's gross. Of course not, but look at this. Geraldine had a boyfriend, and it was when she was middle-aged. She held up one of the pictures. This doesn't say agnostic to me. This says praise the Lord and hallelujah. You can't see me right now, but I'm staring up really, and my hand is up in a what the fuck position. Why would you say that? Guys, having a man is not the be-all and end-all of anything. It doesn't mean you're some weird creep or weird or something if you don't like sex or just don't happen to have a significant other. There is nothing weird about you. There is nothing wrong about you. And the fact that this book tries to say there is very sad. It's not funny. It's stupid. What we just said here is not anything you should say hallelujah about or praise the Lord. There are better things to thank God over, like having money to buy food and pay your bills. That's something you shout hallelujah and thank the Lord about. Not that somebody had a man in their life and was sexually active at one time. You can be thankful that he's a good man and cares a lot about you, you can be thankful she's a good woman and cares a lot about you. But here, it's not funny or interesting. It just makes these people look sad that they're more preoccupied of somebody's personal private business than their own. And this is really what stops me from liking Hannah as much as I should. Because there are things that I can enjoy or agree with her on, but then she pulls something like this that I take severe issue with. And it drags her down, not to the level of Kiki, but it ruins my enjoyment of her character. Taking the picture, Kiki studied it. "Ooh la la," she said, a lurid smile spreading across her face. "Our Gladine did know some men." Well, of course she knew some men. She probably had a dad, probably had male teachers, and boys in class. She knew this one, that's for sure. I suppose it could have been a one-time adventure. Kiki shook her head. If it was a one-time experience, she'd have an embarrassed, silly look on her face. No, she wouldn't. You don't fucking know this. But here she looks really confident. Confident. Yes, confident. Confident. Hannah took the photo from her sister and gave it another look. Yes, she's showing the learned eye of a connoisseur. How do you fucking know this? I could look amazing. Still not know what the fuck I'm doing. Take my show, for example. I went to school 10 years ago to learn how to write books. Instead, I'm recording and editing videos about books and doing book reviews online. You might think I have all my shit together, but I don't. Even going on 3 years doing this stuff on the channel, it might look professional, it might look really good, but it's not. If I had actually had training or more years of experience and more money, of course, my channel would probably be like fucking amazing because there'd be like all kinds of like animations and like there wouldn't just be pictures. You could actually see our mouths moving, or I might hire an animator to like animate videos or some shit. That would look really fucking cool. But I don't. So it's just a podcast of you listening to me bitch about stupid books like this one. She put it back in the box and closed it. We've gotta go. I told Gladine I'd see her around 4. Due to Kiki applying a full array of Revolution products in the car in hopes of seeing Gilman, Hannah had to drive at a snail's pace. Why didn't she just do it there while they're at the house? And they arrived late at the hospital. When they reached Gladine's room, they found her bed empty. A tall, imposing nurse told them that Gladine's test had been delayed, and that she had just gone in for them a few minutes earlier. Figures. The nurse said it would be pointless to wait, since Gladine wouldn't be done for a couple of hours, and by that time visiting hours would be over. Okay, I don't know about other hospitals, but if hospitals are anything like mine, yes, I own a hospital, like the one here in town. They don't give a shit about the visiting hours as long as you keep your fucking mouth shut and aren't too loud to disturb everybody else in the hospital. You can go and see whoever it is you're seeing in the hospital whenever you fucking want. Just don't be a douchebag. That's all the hospital cares about. When Hannah mentioned that Lillian and Vera were spending the night in the waiting room, the nurse assured her that even they wouldn't be able to see Gladine until late the next morning, after her surgery. I don't know why they'd be spending the night in the waiting room and not her room. I've never spent the night in the waiting room. I've took a nap in the waiting room in the floor, because when my brother broke his jaw and had to go for the surgery, I had been up like almost 48 hours. Because I'm a night owl, and so is he. Something happened with his friends, and I think he hit some stairs or something while going down, and he had ended up breaking I believe the right side of his jaw. And his face was swollen and everything, and he didn't feel great, but he wasn't, like, in pain enough to where, like, he had to go and, like, stay at the hospital. So they gave him an appointment for him to arrive, but he had to have somebody to take him. Couldn't drive or anything, and Dad at the time was bad into Alzheimer's. So when I was supposed to be off and I was about to go to sleep at 7 in the morning, my brother calls me and tells me all this. He's like, I'm sending my friend to come and get you so you can watch Dad while I go to the hospital and get my thing done. And so we did that until my uncle showed up to take my place so that I could go to the hospital with Mom and be there to see Kelvin before his surgery, and then wait in the surgery waiting room. I then told Mom that after trying to stay awake and failing, that I was going to go and into the other waiting room that wasn't the surgery waiting room, but it was like where the guests could go who were seeing like the normal inbound patients on that floor. Could go and like have a quiet place to sit and watch TV or read books or whatever while they, waited. And I went in there and I picked a corner off to the side and I just laid down on the floor, used my arm as a pillow and put my coat over me, and I slept on the floor. And let me tell you, that was the most uncomfortable floor I have ever slept in. You would think a hospital would have, like, nice plush carpets and things, but no, this felt like laying on, like, sharp, pointy rocks. But after about 30 minutes, my body and mind did not care anymore. I was out. And the only time I woke up was to turn over and adjust my coat. That was it. And then finally, I think 2 or 4 hours later, I woke up, went to the vending machine, got a soda and, like, some chips. And then I went to see my mother to see how his surgery had went, because I think he might have still been in surgery. I'm not sure. It could have been delayed. I don't really remember now. It's been a few years. I'd have to ask him. But anyway, I don't remember why I was telling that story, but I did. Oh, it was about them staying the night and sleeping in the waiting room. That's what it was. And I'm like, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just stay in her room and sleep in one of the visiting chairs or something in her room? Because that's what we do at the local hospital. If somebody's sick, again, they have visiting hours, but as long as you're quiet, nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody enforces the visiting hours. So we go and visit whoever, and if we're staying for a while or staying the night or whatever, we just sleep in one of those chairs. Geraldine had insisted upon such secrecy regarding the envelope that Hannah didn't feel comfortable leaving it, so she kept it in her purse. Well, she didn't say to leave it, she said it needed to be, somewhere safe. As she and Kiki rode the elevator down the lobby, she felt an anxiety that her sister couldn't help but notice. It's okay, Hannah. We left the nightgown. You did what she wanted. But that was just it, Hannah thought. What did Geraldine want from her? Again, this is like a small thing that, for once, Kiki's being a sister and a friend, and telling her sister when she notices she's upset that it's okay, we don't have to worry about it, you did everything that you're supposed to. Why would she think it's about the nightgown, though? Why wouldn't she say, instead of the nightgown, don't worry, the surgery will go well, it'll be fine? That's what I would assume. So that would be more logically in line with what Kiki should assume that Hannah's fretting over. She had told Hannah that she was in trouble, and the more Hannah considered it, the more she felt that it wasn't a coincidence that there were 2 new bolts on her door, and what was in the envelope that was so important, that Geraldine was afraid to leave at home. Well, I'll keep reading it, but I'm probably going to end up not caring much for it like I did the first book. I really, my main problem is the whole thing with Kiki. And some of the things Hannah does and says, but really not so much as Kiki and Naomi. I really cannot stand Naomi, and I absolutely hate Kiki. And the fact that Naomi is still friends with Hannah and Kiki astounds me. And that they would just do whatever it took to help out their friend. Even though Hannah knows full well, because Naomi admitted to her last book, that she's a phony, that she fakes things, and she makes up shit. It really just seems more of the same as the last book I read in this series. And I know that even though I'm going to keep reading, I'm just going to be disappointed. The last thing I'll say, in regards to characters is I'm surprised that, John or George or whatever his name was from the first book isn't in this book as of yet, or hasn't been mentioned. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe there was a falling out or something in the second book, or whatever that I'm supposed to understand and get as, as the series progresses, and I'm supposed to be following these characters. But, if he's no longer Hannah's boyfriend, or at least, bed partner, it needs to be mentioned. Also, Hannah was so protective of that secret that she had a tattoo on her chest, since, she felt she should put something there, since she had her double mastectomies, that the only time it was ever revealed was to her boyfriend at the very end of the book. Nobody except for him knew what it was and had seen it. But now, suddenly, in the third book, now everybody that is important to her knows about it and have seen it. Did that happen in the second book as well? There are some things that need to be a little more elaborated on, I think. That would help a lot. Do I recommend, now that I've read 2 out of 3 books in the series, that you buy these books? If they seem like something you'd really be into, despite the stupidity and the offensiveness, and especially in the first one, where things just do not mesh well, and I had like an hour tirade explaining why these things should have been changed and how I would have changed them. If you can get past that aspect of it, and you think you might be interested in it, you can pick them up, but I really can't recommend the very first book at all. This one, at the moment, if you're interested, I say pick it up. But it gets an iffy pick it up from me. It's not really a thumbs down, but it's heading that way. It's more of like, I personally wouldn't pick it up after finishing the first book. But then again, I might if I can find the second book for a reasonable price. And the third book, there's better things to read out there, but you might like it. I don't know. Again, if you think it sounds interesting, pick it up. I wouldn't recommend buying it, though. If your library has it, or a friend has it, borrow it, is what I would really recommend. And if you find out you like the series, then you should pick it up. Maybe from now on, I should have maybe a rating system. Like, if I recommend you pick it up, if I a buy it, a borrow it, and a skip it thing. Kind of like Glass Reflections, I suppose. Maybe an own it, borrow it, burn it? I don't know. I'll have to think on that. You guys can, pipe in with some ideas if you want for what like a rating system would be, assuming I would have. I might actually use, it gets an F for fuck you with a werewolf. It gets a C for yeah, but no. Or maybe I could do a Y for, a W for what the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers. I don't know. I'll have to think on it. Maybe that's something I can implement in the new year. I don't know. But we'll see. I'm Caleb and this has been Red Knot. Thank you for listening. Bye!